Hey everybody, welcome to Pins and Nails. I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to dig into my Midwestern roots and we're going to create a set of bags boards, or they might be more commonly known as cornhole boards. I'm a pretty competitive person and I really love games. And you can only make it better when you can add being outside and having a tasty beverage in your hand. So let's get started and let's make you a set of bags boards. Let's start with the materials that you need. 1 sheet of plywood. I'd recommend going between 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch thickness. You'll need 3 8-foot 1x4 boards, 1 8-foot 2x4 board, 1 1/4 inch pocket hole screws, or wood screws if you don't have a pocket hole jig, pneumatic nails, wood glue, and 4 3½ 3/8 carriage bolts with nuts and washers to go with them. Here are all the tools that we used. Don't worry if you don't have all these tools in your shop. You can certainly make substitutions if need be. We used a circular saw, a table saw, orbital sander, a miter saw, a band saw, a standing sander, a router, and a pneumatic nail gun. The first thing we did was rip our plywood boards down to size with a rip saw. Regulation size for bags boards is 4 feet by 2 feet. What you're going to do is you're going to rip one board and then use it as a template to rip your second board. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to cut the frame. We set our 1x4 boards up on a cross-cut sled on our table saw, and we cut 8 different pieces. 4 of them are 4 feet long, and 4 of them are 22 inches long. We chose to secure our frame with pocket hole screws, and we did it because they're strong, they're quick, and they're hidden. If you don't have a pocket hole jig, you can always use wood screws and secure your frame from the outside. If you countersink them, you can cover it up with a slim cut dowel so it's going to be just as well hidden as a pocket hole screw. Don't forget to glue everything up before you screw it all together. Next, I secured the top of the board to the frame using one of my favorite tools, the pneumatic nail gun. And then, for the ultimate smooth edge, I routed the sides with a flush trim bit. Your next step is to cut a hole in the center of your board. You want to center the circle 9 inches from the top of the board. Now, what we did is Mike rigged together a great jig so that we could cut even circles. In the past, we used a jigsaw, but got frustrated because it just wasn't as smooth as we wanted it to be. And it's actually not too hard to do. All you need is a thin piece of scrap wood and a nail. When you're doing it, just make sure to test it out on a different piece of scrap board to make sure that your measurements are accurate. Now, you're going to cut the legs. Right now, you want to cut the legs about 14 inches long. Next, what we did is we wanted to kind of add a little finishing touch and make it so that you couldn't tell that the legs were made out of a 2x4. So we set our legs up on the table saw with a sled and we trimmed it down just a little bit. Next, what you're going to want to do with your legs is you're going to want to round out one of the edges because it's going to make it a lot easier to set up your board and then put it away and hide the legs at the end of the day. What's really important is to make a really clear center mark at the center of the width of your board. And then use either a compass or another round object if you have one that fits perfectly and trace out an outline for you to cut. You can either use a bandsaw or a jigsaw. Personally, I prefer a bandsaw because I feel like I have a little bit more control that way. But you are going to sand it either way to make sure that your edge is nice and smooth. I used a disc sander and made sure to go from one straight edge and rotate it around to the other so I had a really nice transition. The next part is to pre-drill the hole where your carriage bolt is going to secure your frame to your legs. You're going to use that mark that you just made at the center of the width of your board and you're going to drill a hole through there. Next, you're going to clamp your leg to the inside of the frame in the extended position and drill from the inside of your frame out. Next, you're going to want to prep all of your pieces and get them ready for painting. I used an orbital sander and 2 different grits to get it to the smoothness that I was looking for. First with the 60 grit and then with the 120. You can paint your boards however you like. Maybe you like spray paint or maybe you prefer using a paintbrush. Either way, just make sure you're using a paint that's going to stand up to the outdoors. It's kind of a long process, so bring nourishment if necessary. To meet regulation, the back of your board needs to sit 12 inches higher than the ground. So, for this step, you're going to need to temporarily attach your legs to the board using your carriage bolts. You're also going to need a piece of scrap wood that elevates the back of the board to 12 inches above the ground. Set up your board on a place where the leg can hang over the side and prop it up using that scrap wood. Extend the legs to their fully extended position and trace where that 12-inch mark hits. Do that with both legs for each set of bags boards, and then remove the legs from the frame. Next, you're going to use a miter saw to cut along that line that you made, and there you have it, perfectly balanced legs. That's it! Now it's time to put everything together. You're going to want to secure the nut with some Loctite, and if you'd like, you can add a handle to the side to make it easier to carry your boards around. Now all you need is some good weather, a tasty beverage, some friends, and some bean bags, and now you have a great outdoor game. If you like my video, please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any future tutorials. I also post non-video tutorials on my blog, pinsandnails.com. Come find me on Instagram or on Facebook to get more regular updates on the projects that Mike and I are working on. Trust me, there's always something going on. Until next time, have fun making!